Hello, good people of YouTube, Mountbatten here, and today I'm bringing you guys my top 5 recommendations for the next season of Ranked. So the next season of Ranked is taking place back at Tier 10, 8v8 with CVs, and it's going to be a mixture of Domination and Epicenter, with a bit of Arms Race thrown in there. Now, that's quite interesting, because if I'm reading the website correct, we're going to get some Domination, that's normal, but then we're going to get Epicenter with Arms Race thrown in. So this is going to be an interesting ranked season. It's also interesting to how they'll use Arms Race in a full season of Ranked now, not a sprint season, yet it is still not in the game in its own mode, which is very confusing because I would assume if they're prepared to throw it in with a full ranked season, it should be good to go in the game with its own mode, because it's about time we get some more game modes, and asymmetrical battles is a definitely big step in the right direction. I'm having a blast with that, but it would be nice if Arms Race would get its own mode. Anyway, these are my 5 recommendations. I'm going to give a couple of Techline alternatives. There are a couple of premiums on here, not too many, but I'll give you guys some alternatives to them in case you don't have these premium ships. But anyway, let's go ahead and get going at number 5. So, of course, this is a CV season, so naturally we have to include a CV, and the one that I chose is the Tier 10 German aircraft carrier, the Richtofen. Now, this thing's absolutely insane. Not sure why they haven't nerfed it yet. So, the Richtofen is going to dominate this ranked season. It's got more alpha potential than the Hawk. The Hawk got its AP bombs nerfed. Richtofen, for some reason, hasn't yet. And, well, we'll get more on the bombs in a sec. Let's talk about the rocket planes first, because the rocket planes are unique and very powerful. So the Richtofen's rocket planes launch AP rockets that have the penetrating power of 203mm cruiser guns. So, needless to say, if you catch a cruiser broadside with these rockets, you can easily drain well over, good God, depending upon how many citadels you get, well over a quarter of his health, sometimes half, depending upon what the ship is. Sometimes almost all of the ship's health if they're very unlucky. So yeah, this thing is crazy. Even with myself playing the Richtofen, and I'm not a very good carrier player by any stretch of the imagination, it's easy for me to get consistent 14, 16, 17, 20k salvos with these rocket planes. It is absolutely crazy. The torpedo planes too. They're also very, very good at attacking cruisers and even destroyers. The torpedoes are very, very quick. They don't do a lot of damage, but when you are torpedoing a destroyer, it doesn't really matter because they don't have too much health. But these torpedoes are, of course, also very effective against cruisers since they're very fast and very easy to get good, consistent hits on target. Now, the AP bombs, like I mentioned at the start of this section, they do more damage if you get all 3 of them to Citadel than the Hawk. Hawk, back in the, Season 9 of Clan Wars, it was known for its 25.5, which was 25,500 damage if all of its bombs would connect and Citadel a ship. The Richtofen can do 26,400 damage in one run if all 3 AP bombs connect. Now, again, there is a bit of RNG involved in that, but still, even if one of these things connect, you're going to be doing anywhere from 10k to 12k to, I think it's actually, if 2 connect, it's somewhere around 15 or 16k. It hurts like hell. And if all 3 of them connect, 26,400 damage. That is, of course, God, for cruisers, that's almost half health of most of the tier 10 cruisers. That's a quarter of the GK's health. And Kremlin too, that's a quarter of its health as well. So yeah, this thing is gonna slap. Add into that this thing has decent secondaries. They're not Graf Zeppelin level of secondaries, but they're good enough to defend against DDs. And then throw in the fact that Arms Race is going to be in the rotation. You're going to have a Hawk that can heal itself, planes that can heal itself. The secondaries are going to be firing faster with the reload booster and such. So yeah, Richtofen, not a Hawk. But anyway, yeah, this thing's going to be absolutely nuts this season, and I do expect it to be just about everywhere. Moving on to number 4, we have the Stalingrad, the Tier 10 Premium Soviet Cruiser, in quotation marks. So, it's a Stalingrad. Don't really need to explain this thing. It's got cruiser guns that hit like battleship guns at just about any range. It's got radar, 12-kilometer radar, defensive fire for AA. It's got pretty good armor. It's really, really tanky from bow in. It is a bit paper mache. No, not a bit. It is paper mache from the sides. And its turrets do take a little while to rotate around. So if you've got the Stalingrad, I mean, it's made for competitive play, and it's going to fit right in home here. The tech line alternative to Stalingrad is, of course, the Petropavlovsk, which Stalingrad barely beats the Petro for penetration power, by the way, just a little bit. Petro's that good. Petro has 220mm guns. They reload in 10 seconds. And she is, well, it feels like she was certainly designed for competitive play. All three of her turrets can 360, which means you don't have to worry about your third turret taking the long way around. And you can just stay bow in. And like, if you've seen a Petro, it sits so darn low in the water, too, that you basically will have one heck of a time trying to citadel it. But yeah, it's the Petro. Now, the Stalingrad does have better radar than the Petro. It lasts longer. Stalingrad's radar lasts around 20 seconds. Petro's only lasts for 12 seconds, and with the 6-second spotting delay, that does mean your team does only have 6 seconds to shoot whatever you're radaring. Either ship will be a strong competitor in rank this season, although the Stalingrad, I mean, if you got that, in my opinion, is the better choice. Better radar, better guns, better tanking ability. Even though the Petro is a tough boy, it can't bounce shells as good as Stalin can, but Stalin, always going to be on a pick for any competitive gameplay at tier 10. Alright, moving on down now to number 3. We have the tier 10 German battleship, the Grosser Kurfürst. So the Kurfürst is going to be insane on Epicenter with arms race, or if they are going to mix in arms race with domination. Anything with arms race in it, GK is going to be insane. Here's why. You build it for secondaries, you get in an arms race mode, you pick up a bunch of reload boosters and the heal so you can just go for it in GK. You grab Lucians, you get 100 secondary hits, you activate Lucian's secondary armament expert talent, and those secondary gunners are going to be hopped up on so much meth that they are not going to have to reload. I have a couple of videos up on the channel from the last time that I think it was just a ranked sprint season was in arms race mode, and good God, the GK secondaries, it was so easy to get match after match after match where they did like 100,000 damage, 120, 130, 140,000 damage. It was literally insane. And it doesn't really matter what ship you're in. At that point, under that volume of secondary fire from the GK, you are going to melt. It may take a minute or two, but you are going to absolutely get melted. Now, of course, that is under the condition that you're in one of the matches with arms race mode, and you do have Lucians, and you are secondary build. If you do all that, your GK basically isn't going to stop firing. Other reasons why you should pick the GK besides just that: great armor for close-in engagements. The guns are accurate enough at close range. With the 420s, you can pack one heck of a punch too. You do have the very good secondaries on the GK, and they are German secondary guns, and all of them can pin 32mm of armor without IFHE, and you get hydroacoustic search to boot. And you have decent-ish AA if you are running a secondary build on the GK, because the secondary build does buff the AA. So you do have that going for you. It's not exactly an AA barge, but grouped up and provided that the AA is still intact, you do have a pretty decent ability to stand up to CVs if you're with maybe another 2 or 3 ships. So yeah, half the team. But anyway, GK would also be a solid choice for Epicenter too, because you're going to have to be aggressive. Your team won't be aggressive, but if you want to carry them, you're going to have to be aggressive. Get in there, get those caps, chase those ships out in the middle, and at that point, at that close of range, GK will do great. Alright, moving on to number 2, we have the Tier 10 French Didi Kleber. Because who can hit you when you're traveling at light speed? With the engine boost from arms race mode, if you have the French commander that gets the speed boost from, 2 million potential damage or something like that, Kleber is going to be absolutely flying around the map. Not to mention its probably one of the best DDs in the game right now, if not the best DD in the game. It's basically what Khabarovsk once was, but since it's not Khabarovsk, it hasn't been nerfed into the ground yet. People kind of overlook that Khabarovsk kind of breaks the Russian bias narrative, because poor Khabarovsk, man. War crimes have been done to that thing. But anyway, Kleber, absolute gunboat. You get the reload booster on those French guns. You get the special damage saturation model. For those of you that don't know, the French DD, since they don't have a smoke screen, they get the special damage saturation model where effectively they take basically 50% less damage. So they got that going for it. And then you, of course, have the speed boost where you can get up to around 55 knots in the Kleber. So, yeah, it's absolutely insane. Oh, and you, of course, have 8-kilometer torpedoes that are pretty darn fast. I mean, 8 kilometers is, well, your detection range if you're running with the Chad Kleber build. But, I mean, when you're traveling at almost 60 knots, again, who's going to hit you at those speeds? So if you're a good DD player, you have the Kleber. Excellent choice for this season, in my opinion. Another DD choice you could probably take would be Smolin with the radar. But, I mean, Kleber is Kleber. And, of course, by the way, I almost forgot to mention this, too. When you're traveling at 60 knots, it makes it really easy for you to grab those buffs, too, because your team's going to need those buffs to really succeed. And, again, when you can travel almost 60 knots, you are going to be the first thing there, unless it's another Kleber, or unless they make it to where the planes can cap the buffs as well. But the planes can't. So you're the next fastest thing on the battlefield. Alright, coming in at number 1, we have the Tier 10 Premium Japanese battleship, the Hikashima. Honestly, I just want to hear the gun sound effects. But to argue its importance, to argue its usefulness in this ranked season, I mean, 510mm guns, 20-inch guns. I mean, I don't think that needs a lot of explanation. Under 30-second reload on those guns. Highest DPM of any Tier 10 secondary battleship. You have pretty darn good AA, actually. It's surprising, I know, a Japanese premium ship with good AA. So, 20-inch guns, darn good secondaries, not as good as the Germans, but pretty darn good. Pretty decent AA, and if you know how to angle, the ship is pretty darn tough as well. Then you throw Yamamoto on there, and with his boost and such, and if you do activate his talent, his second wind talent, my god, that's going to make the Hikashima absolutely nuts. But you do have to get Kraken and Unleash for that. But with the Hikashima, you can just ignore the bow armor of enemy ships. You've got the secondaries that can absolutely melt destroyers and some cruisers. And then, of course, I mean, you have the sound effect. The sound effect will be a humongous buff to your team's morale. But if you don't have a Hikashima, you could also take, well, a Yami. Does what the Hikashima does, but just better and without the secondaries or AA. Hikashima only has 6 guns, Yami has 9, and, you know, 9 18-inch guns are kind of better than 6 20-inch guns. Although it is hilarious when that one stray shell nicks a ship in the Hikashima, then suddenly they're down half their health. Now, if you don't want to take the Yami, you could also take, well, the Kremlin would be a pretty good choice, although you will have to get pretty close for its guns to be pretty darn accurate. With the Yami and the Hikashima, you could at least stay back at medium range at first, and your guns will be just fine, and then you can go ahead and push in. But besides the Hikashima or Yami, you could also take the Kremlin here because it is incredibly tanky. If you have Kuznetsov, you can pretty much just, or Kuznetsov, however you say his name, you can just, you know, refuse to die with his Will to Victory talent, and then you get the survivability build going on the Kremlin, so the thing will be ungodly tanky as well. But the AA has been nerfed quite a bit on the Kremlin, so, you know, it would still be a pretty good tank, but if the MVR and the enemy team wants you dead, you're going to die pretty fast in the Kremlin. Whereas with the Hikashima, you still have pretty decent AA. Yami has kind of decent AA, but, you know, Hikashima does have the best between the three of them. But those would be my number 1 picks for battleships for this season of ranked battles. So, hey guys, that's my 5 picks. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'm probably not going to be playing too much of this ranked season, honestly. Last season, kind of really just left me with a bad taste in my mouth, so I won't be doing rank 2 too much. I may get on just to try out some of the arms race shenanigans, since I do like that mode so much. But anyway, guys, that's what I think. That's the list for this season of ranked battles. Let me know everything in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like and subscribe to the channel. We are on our way to 20,000 subs. We just passed 16,600, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. We'll be streaming right here on the channel and on Twitch at 4 p.m. U.S. Central Time until 7 p.m. U.S. Central Time. So make sure to come out and join us for that. Otherwise, guys, hope you're having a great Friday. I hope to catch you guys in the next one.